Code Lyoko. It's a French cartoon that is better than Miraculous Ladybug in every conceivable way. Hey, I don't make the rules. I just report them. Hello everyone, my name's Aloubell, and okay. Miraculous does two things better than Code Lyoko. For one, the foreheads, because my goodness, you can place the entire continent of Antarctica on the foreheads of the Code Lyoko characters. And two, the CGI is much better in Miraculous, but that's to be expected since Code Lyoko aired in 2003, and the quality for TV CGI shows wasn't great back then. But aside from those two things, Code Lyoko was a pretty perfect show. Code Lyoko respected its characters, respected dark and heavier topics, had an actually threatening and competent villain, and it had stakes. There's a reason why I'm bringing Miraculous Ladybug into this conversation. I'm not just bashing it just to bash it. Just give me some time to set the scene. First, what's Code Lyoko? Code Lyoko is a French animated show that ran from 2003 to 2007, and it had 4 seasons with 97 episodes. It initially aired on the France 3 channel, and when it was dubbed in English, aired on Cartoon Network during the Magoozy block. The show was about a group of teenagers, Jeremy, Ulrich, Yumi, and Odd, who, with their artificial intelligence friend Aelita, battle against a malevolent AI known as Xana. Both Xana and Aelita come from a virtual world called Lyoko, which can only be accessed via this supercomputer. Xana uses the power of Lyoko to wreak havoc on the real world, attempting to wipe out humanity. The genius of the teen group, Jeremy, along with Aelita, figure out that it's possible to fight back against Xana by going to Lyoko and helping Aelita to temporarily deactivate Xana. And thus, Ulrich, Yumi, and Odd, with some fancy science pods, are able to virtualize themselves into Lyoko to do just that. They also discover that the supercomputer has the ability to return to the past upon entering the code that temporarily neutralizes Xana. Just as the name suggests, this ability allows them to return to the time before Xana attacked that day, and life will go on as if Xana didn't wreak havoc. This process wipes the memories of anyone who hasn't been scanned by the supercomputer. And we're gonna put a pin on that particular detail.
But Aloe, doesn't that take away any stakes?
Again, we'll get back to that, because spoiler alert, no, it doesn't actually. But anyway, there's also the option to simply shut off the computer, but doing so will destroy Aelita, and they don't want to do that. So the plan is to find a way to bring her to the real world and break her ties with Lyoko. Only then will they be able to turn Xana off. Is it a little selfish to try to save one AI girl by putting the whole world at risk? A tad, yeah. But our heroes seem to think that they have things under control. And also, they're teenagers. Still kids, so they aren't the wisest bunch around. Good-hearted, but not necessarily the best of judgment. And plus, considering how mysterious the supercomputer even is, who's to say what would even happen if they did try to shut it off? Maybe Xana would be destroyed, or maybe something else would happen. So, they gotta figure some things out. Code Lyoko utilizes both a hand-drawn 2D animation style with watercolor backgrounds, along with a CGI style. The hand-drawn style is used for the real world, and the CGI for Lyoko. This was probably the first time I had seen both 2D and CGI sharing the spotlight together, and it really worked for what the show was trying to do. With Lyoko being in CGI, it gave a video game feel, so the awkward at times animation was a bit charming. The 2D style was also very aesthetically pleasing and was animated fairly well. It was nothing groundbreaking, but it got the job done competently. Honestly, the biggest hiccup for me, and many others, was the display of massive foreheads. Seriously, what were the character designers thinking? I get it, this is their art style, so to each their own, but I can't help but think how much more amazing this show would have been if I couldn't signal the aliens in space with their foreheads. Again, this style is charming, so I can't say I dislike it, though you could chalk that up to nostalgia a bit. But at the very least, you can't say that Code Lyoko didn't have its own unique look. A lot of shows share stylistic elements, but Code Lyoko had its own unmistakable identity that you couldn't help but respect. As for the characters, they existed. Okay, I'm just joking. They're pretty cool. Not the most complex characters out there, but the main characters are all likable and have their own distinct personalities, flaws, and interests. You come to really care about them and feel the weight of the world on their shoulders, especially with all of the trauma they come to experience. Although the show is semi-episodic and very Monster of the Week-like, similarly to Miraculous and even My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, it has plot-relevant episodes. So quite a few episodes you can watch in any order, but some of them you definitely need context and viewing in the correct sequence. And so, because of the mostly episodic nature of the show, and because it is in fact a show made for kids, you don't always get the sense that these kids are traumatized. Like, they brush off near-death experiences pretty easily, but when the writers had the chance, they still treated heavy topics as best as they could, even within their limitations, and still did their very best to show, as time went on, that these kids are experienced and have seen and been through some stuff. And if memory serves me right, as the show progressed, the plot-relevant episodes became more frequent, at which case, you really did need to tune in more often to get the full story. In any case, this show is awesome, and I'd like to super emphasize how amazing the theme song for this show is. Seriously. Whether you listen to the song in French or English, both versions go so hard. The song is called A World Without Danger, and it is honestly one of the best theme songs for a show I have ever heard. Code Lyoko is such an awesome show that it deserves such a memorable and epic theme. I implore you to go check it out if you haven't. In fact, I'll make things easy for you and put a link to the song in the description. So now you don't have an excuse to not listen to it. Something I deliberately failed to mention earlier was that Code Lyoko has a sequel series in 2013 called Code Lyoko Evolution, and, well, it's kind of, what's the word? Oh yeah, dumb. Running for only 1 year and one 26-episode season, it suffered from the same injustice as the final season of Once Upon a Time, in that it was incredibly unnecessary and only hurt the show. Seriously, the only good thing about the last season of Once Upon a Time is good Queen Regina and the Captain Swan baby. Man, that season was disappointing. Wait, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, Code Lyoko Evolution. You see, dear viewers, Code Lyoko proper had an ending. I'm about to provide some very light and sort of vague spoilers, but if it really bothers you and you don't want to hear it, skip to this timestamp. Okay, so the gang ends up defeating Xana, and it even took a sacrifice in order to do it. So for Code Lyoko Evolution to pop up and say, hey, guess what? That super impactful ending from the main show? Forget that, Xana is back. Why? For what reason? Who asked for this? The show ended. We even had the characters wave goodbye to the audience. All of the mysteries were solved and the supercomputer shut down. What more is there? Not only was it unnecessary, but the real world section was done in live action. Who even wanted that? Give me back my hand-drawn stuff. I want my giant foreheads back. There is no Lyoko without foreheads that you can land airplanes on.
But Aloe, the Lyoko stuff was still done in CGI, and an even better CGI than the original show, since technology had improved by that point. So, you know, you still get to see the original character designs to some degree.
It's not the same and you know it. The show was so disliked that it got canceled and was left on a cliffhanger. Never mind that the company that was producing it, Moonscoop, filed for bankruptcy during the show's run in 2014. Regardless, because the show is so vastly different both in terms of quality and logic compared to the main series, which isn't a surprise since the original director and head writer left production of this show during its planning phase, I won't acknowledge Evolution as canon, and I'm pretty sure that sentiment is shared amongst most Code Lyoko fans. It is a different canon and doesn't exist. Code Lyoko Evolution? What's that? Never heard of it.
Just as a disclaimer, both myself and Aloe are aware that this show has its fans. Maybe not as many fans as the original show, but it still had a following. So we feel sympathy for the folks who watched this show and never got a satisfying conclusion. Hopefully one day you can find out what the ending was supposed to be.
Code Lyoko proper had a perfect and satisfying ending, and many kids shows don't get the luxury of having that since they are so often canceled for some reason or another. So, it was truly a special show that many of us still think fondly about all these years later. Now, switching gears, why was I bringing up Miraculous Ladybug so much earlier? Well, before I continue, if you're enjoying this video, then help me to vanquish Xana by hitting the like button and subscribe for more reviews, rants, and rewrites. If you want to support me even more, then click join and become a channel member where you can get cool perks such as, but not limited to, early access to videos as well as live streams. Becoming a member will help me in my dream of having a creative career and providing more entertainment for all of you. Follow me on my socials in the description, and be sure to join our community Discord, link also in the description. If you're still watching at this point, put the computer emoji in the comments. Thank you! Alright, on to Miraculous Ladybug. So, yes, Miraculous and Code Lyoko have some superficial similarities, as well as some things that are related to one another. Them both being French shows is one thing, and both shows also take place in France, as well as both shows focusing on teens who save the world. But Thomas Astruc actually worked on Code Lyoko. Not on the story or anything. Like, let me make this clear, he did not touch the writing for this show. But he was a storyboard artist for the first season. And while his time on the production was limited, he, or someone on the Miraculous Ladybug team, had some sort of influence from Code Lyoko because, look at this. Look at it! Haxon is literally Xana in Xana's symbol. Like, it's not exact, but come on. I mean, I'm not calling anyone out for plagiarism or ripping anything off. This was clearly just a respectful homage to Code Lyoko, and that's cool, that's fine, no worries. I just find it funny how Miraculous, one of the most controversial shows regarding the quality of its writing, usually skewing in a more negative light, referenced Code Lyoko, an arguably and almost unanimously agreed upon much better show.
But Aloe, these are two different shows with different premises. They really shouldn't be compared like that, nor was there any intention on either of the creators to pit them against each other. There's probably no ill will whatsoever. Besides, there are people out there who enjoy Miraculous more than Code Lyoko. Isn't there a chance that what you're saying might pointlessly start arguments between the people of these fandoms?
Okay, 1, I'm not trying to start some big fandom war or anything. Besides, I'm not the babysitter of the people in the comments. I can trust them to keep their cool regardless of what side they're on. And even if they don't keep their cool, I can't control what they do. And 2, these are all obviously my opinions. Each and every video I make is full of my opinions. I'm not saying my opinions are fact or that you should blindly follow what I say, but I say what I feel, and I figure that's why most of you are here. So, having said that, I made a video last year about why Miraculous Ladybug, the power, is ridiculous and makes no sense in the context and theme of the show. I'm not going to go into all the reasons why, but I know one of my problems with that power is that there are no real stakes involved because of it. You can say that for Ladybug's powers in general, since the Ladybug Miraculous has the power to create literally anything and is only limited by the user. But Miraculous Ladybug in itself has the power to fix everything that gets messed up by the Butterfly and Peacock Miraculouses, for some reason. Now, I mentioned earlier that Code Lyoko has a similar mechanic, Return to the Past, where once again, our heroes have the ability to turn back time after Xana is defeated for the episode. Turning back time fixes all of the damage that Xana created in the real world. How is this any different from the Miraculous Ladybug power? One word: stakes. With the help of some friends on Discord, This Day is Going to Be Perfect, Lady in Red 380, and Alice, I have found that there is evidence that not only can Miraculous Ladybug fix everything, but it also brings people back from the dead. Contrary to what the show might say, there is heavy evidence that people have died in Akuma and Centimonster attacks and were brought back once Miraculous Ladybug was used. Even if you don't account for the general widespread destruction of monsters in which civilians absolutely get crushed, burned to death / blown up, fall to their doom, etc., you have the wacky and destructive powers of the monsters themselves, which turn people into inanimate objects, get frozen solid, which is fatal, or having to deal with unlivable conditions, such as an erupting volcano. I'm sure there's more. Again, thanks to my friends on Discord, as well as these messages by a user named Sebastian Colt. Links below to his posts. All of that chaos undone by some tiny magical ladybugs. We hear nothing of the passing of millions or of any funerals. Everyone is always giddy and peaceful when Ladybug does her thing. And everyone who was previously either dead or in a dead-adjacent situation are magically okay. Where are the stakes? As long as Ladybug herself, or whoever has the Ladybug Miraculous, is able to use Miraculous Ladybug, things will always be okay in that no one is actually going to really get hurt.
But Aloe, Gabriel won at the end of Season 5. From what we understand of the lore, quite literally the whole universe was wiped out, and thus billions or even trillions of people and entities died because of the wish he made. So, those are pretty big stakes. I don't think Miraculous Ladybug can fix that.
Well, yeah, sure, but I think this is the one and only exception because Gimme's powers override Tiki's powers. Reality trumps creation, so that makes sense for Miraculous Ladybug not to be able to undo that in particular. Regardless, as horrific of a situation as that is, everyone was replaced with perfect copies of themselves, and the death of the old versions will never, ever, 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 ever be acknowledged. And thus, these new versions are just basically the old versions without much consequence other than Gabriel being gone. And thus, this big catastrophic event that shook the universe and had the ultimate stakes somehow wrapped itself back around to having no stakes because in some cosmic twisted sense, the good guys still won and everyone, even Natalie, who died, is okay. So, what was actually lost? Other than Gabriel, I mean. And since Gimme is part of Tiki and thus the wish has aspects of Miraculous Ladybug, I still feel like I'm some level of right. Hopefully all of that made sense. Tangent aside, Miraculous Ladybug, when used, can fix everything and bring people back from the dead. Return to the past, however, cannot. Like, it absolutely cannot. If someone dies, they will not be brought back to life, even if you go back to before their death. This is why Code Lyoko has such intense suspense to it at times, because you never know if you're about to lose a character. Also, if a character falls in the bottomless abyss that surrounds Lyoko, they die. Ordinarily, if one of our heroes gets damaged in Lyoko, they would simply devirtualize and show back up in the real world, a bit bruised and exhausted, but alive. But if they fall into that bottomless abyss, that will kill them permanently. Also, unlike Miraculous Ladybug, that can seemingly be spammed once you've grown up, or at the very least, used without consequence, Return to the Past has the consequence of making Xana stronger each time it's used. At some point, the heroes have to try to deal with Xana without relying on returning to the past, in order to have a better chance at defeating it. And in doing so, the stakes are raised even higher because whatever damage Xana causes is permanent. You get the sense that every move that both the good guys and bad guys make matters, and that's super important to a show like this. And it should matter in a show like Miraculous too. In Code Lyoko, I feel like everyone is in danger. In Miraculous, as long as the Ladybug Miraculous stays with the good guys, no one is. And yes, I know part of the point of Miraculous Ladybug, the show, is to make sure the bad guy is prevented from getting this item that fixes everything. And thus, the stakes are technically high, because if he gets it, it's all over. But what does that say for the rest of the show? Unless we know for a fact that the Ladybug Miraculous is in actual danger of getting taken by the bad guy, there aren't any stakes. And even if it did get taken, both the Black Cat Miraculous and the Ladybug Miraculouses need to be stolen for any real threat to occur. which allows the good guys enough wiggle room to get one back if they lose the other. But in actuality, the question of whether or not the stakes are legitimately high is actually more complex than that, due to the main character being a creator's pet and the main villain being an incompetent idiot. So, you really don't feel that sense of urgency. Whereas in Code Lyoko, the main characters get damaged and tossed around often, and Xana is extremely deadly and capable. Like, considering it's a kids show, you're fairly confident that Xana won't win in the end, but boy do they still make you question that at times. The idea of comparing Return to the Past and Miraculous Ladybug and how they deal with stakes was initially the whole point of this video, but I couldn't help but talk about Code Lyoko as a whole and why I respect it more than Miraculous. Miraculous has both really high stakes and really low stakes at the same time, and that is such a fascinating anomaly, but it's more frustrating than anything. I'm not opposed to a button of sorts that fixes things, as it is used in a few other magical girl stories as well, but the way that Miraculous handles it just doesn't sit well with me. I don't know, it's probably because in the other magical girl stories, the scale of things that are fixed are more reasonable. More often than not, it is the direct effect of the villain that is fixed or reversed and not necessarily the collateral damage. And they certainly can't spam resurrection magic whenever they want, whereas in Miraculous, the death and destruction from the monster of the week is so vast and ridiculous that the automatic undoing of all of that in such an easy manner just makes you question why any of the struggle matters. So, in conclusion, go watch Code Lyoko. Now, do I think that Code Lyoko is the best show ever? No. Is it my favorite? No. Does it have problems? Yes. Will I mention them? No, because this script is long enough and none of the issues are so bad that they stick out to me and thus are not worth mentioning. Am I overselling this due to my fondness and nostalgia for the series? Probably. And even though I said earlier that it was a perfect show, there is no such thing as a perfect show. So despite it not being a perfect show, I still think it's a quality story that deserves respect for what it was able to pull off. And from what I can tell, many people share my sentiment regarding how good it is and how its writing is superior to many of the newer shows nowadays. If you can get past the character designs and the less than stellar CGI, I believe you'll love the show. It has action, suspense, mystery, sci-fi elements, romance, all of the fun stuff. I personally watch the English dub, but I'm sure you'll have fun no matter which dub you watch. But hey, I'll let you form your own opinion about it, so definitely check it out when you have the chance. And again, check out the theme song. The full theme song, by the way, not the tiny snippet from the show. And now I open the floor to all of you. Have you seen Code Lyoko? What do you think of it? Are you inspired to check it out? How do you feel about Miraculous Ladybug versus Return to the Past? Comment below and let's get this conversation started. And remember, I'm the artistic Aloubell, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like it and subscribe for more reviews, rants, and rewrites. But as for now, that's all there is. There isn't any more.